Have you ever wondered why your AI videos come out looking like slop and not like the cinematic outputs you see online? There's a specific reason for that, and the gap between the two isn't the model you're using, it's all the control you're lacking. That's why, in this video, I'll break down every decision that separates them, so by the end, you can make cinematic videos yourself that are ready for professional use. So let's start with the biggest thing people get wrong, and it's what separates videos that look fake from the ones that are fully cinematic. For this whole video, I'll be working inside Higgsfield, which is an all-in-one platform that keeps every tool I need for AI video making in one place. So if you want to follow along, I've left a link to it in the description below. Once you log in, everything's laid out along the top navigation bar, and since every cinematic shot starts from a single frame, that's what we'll build first. Now, the change that fixes more than any keyword ever will is a simple one. You're not describing an idea, you're describing what a camera can actually record. Words like epic, moody, or dramatic lighting don't mean anything to a camera because none of them are something it can actually see. So let me show you exactly what that mistake looks like. I'll click on Image, and from the model selector, I'll pick GPT Image 2, which right now is the best image model for photorealism. Then I'll set the quality to high, the resolution to 4K, and the aspect ratio to 16:9, and type in a lazy one-liner, the kind you've probably written yourself. A beautiful woman at a bus stop in the rain at night, cinematic, dramatic lighting, moody, 8K, masterpiece. This prompt doesn't just describe the idea, but it includes keywords that most people think are enough for a high-quality result. And at first, the image looks really good, which is the biggest trap for beginners. GPT Image 2 is too good to fail in an obvious way, so a lazy prompt doesn't give you a broken AI generation. Her face is perfectly lit, and she's posing right at the camera, but nothing in the scene is actually producing that light. The image looks good for an ad, but if you wanted to make an actual frame of a woman waiting in the bus stop, this isn't realistic, and no one would actually look or pose like that. That's because every word in that prompt is a feeling. So the model does the safest thing it knows and lights her like a commercial. Now watch what happens when I make the light an actual decision. I'll keep the exact same model and settings, but this time the prompt names where the light comes from. It specifies which side of her face it hits, and here's the one call that changes everything. I exposed a shot for those warm highlights and let her face fall into shadow. I've left this prompt along with the full workflow down in the description completely for free so you can follow along as we go. And this time it comes out looking like a real shot from a film. The light finally has a source you can point to, and her face is in shadow now instead of that flat front light. It might not look as stunning as the first image, but that was the intention. An image that looks too polished renders as fake to the eye, not because it looks bad, but because it looks like an advertisement. And if you want to actually create realistic videos, you need to start taking control of your scenes. So make sure you're always intentional with the lighting because it's the first thing that makes or breaks an AI video. So using the same model and settings, by applying this simple fix, we were able to create something that actually looks realistic, not generated. But the light is only half of why that shot works, and the other half is a completely different decision. That other half has to do with the actual shot design, and it's the reason a shot can be lit perfectly and still come out looking cheap. Let's go back to the two bus stop images we just made and put them right next to each other. In the first one, she's dead center, staring straight down the lens, and everything from her face to the background is equally sharp, so nothing actually stands out. Now look at the second one. She's pushed off to one side and turned in profile, and the whole background has gone soft and out of focus while she stays sharp. That soft background is a lens, and it's the one thing almost nobody thinks to write into a prompt. That prompt names an 85mm lens with the camera set across the street, and a long lens like that compresses the background and blurs it out. So she separates cleanly from everything behind her, and that's the whole difference between a flat phone snapshot and something that looks like it was actually shot on a real camera. The other part of shot design is blocking, which just means deciding where everything sits in plain measurable terms. Instead of dropping her in the middle, I put her off to one side in profile, with her body turned one way and her eyes down on her phone, so she actually resembles a person waiting at the bus stop. The model constantly confuses where someone is facing with where they're looking, so you have to spell out both. I also leave a big part of the frame nearly empty on purpose, because that empty space is exactly what makes it feel feel composed instead of a busy shot. So those are the fundamentals, but to actually show you how they all come into play, let me build a brand new scene from scratch that gets every one of them right. I'll head back to the image generation workspace with GPT Image 2 on the same settings as before, and this time I'm going for a waitress alone in an empty diner at 3 in the morning. The one-liner prompt gave me this image, which again looks good at first glance, but it's not realistic. The technology is way too advanced, and slop doesn't mean broken anymore. It just means unnatural and obviously generated. So to actually make an image with all the fundamentals in the prompt, I'll specify to put her in the right third of the frame, mid-wipe, with her eyes down on the counter, and leave the whole left side as an empty diner and window for real negative space. For the lens, I'll use a 50mm and keep the camera low across the counter so she and the counter stay sharp while the window goes soft behind her. Then for the light, I'll give it two real sources, a cool neon coming in from the window on one side and warm lamps over the counter for that contrast effect. And here's what comes back. It looks like a real frame from a film. A waitress actually caught mid-shift, not a model who's posing for the camera. So the second you start placing the camera and the lens on purpose, instead of letting the model center everything and keep it all sharp, your shots stop looking like a screenshot and start looking composed. So that's a second cinematic shot built from nothing, just by treating the lens and the framing as real decisions instead of leaving them up to the model. But both of these are still just images, and they're important to get right because they're the elements your videos get built on, but actually animating them has its own set of things you need to get right. And the biggest one is the motion, because a shot can look perfect when it's just an image and still fall apart when you animate it. So here's what's actually going wrong when your videos come out looking fake. Bad motion is one of two things. Either everything just sits there completely still, or the whole shot drifts around slowly while the subject barely moves, and both of them look fake instantly. The fix is to stop thinking like you're writing a prompt and start thinking like you're directing an actual scene. So instead of writing something vague like cinematic camera movement, you say what a real operator would physically do, like hold the camera locked in one spot or push in slowly from 4 meters to 2 at walking pace. And then you give the movement real weight, because without it, you get that unnatural movement that instantly gives an AI video away. Let me show you both halves of that on the two shots we already built. First, the bus stop, and for this one, I want the camera to stay completely still and let all the life come from her. So I'll head over to video, which takes me into the video generation workspace, and pick Seedance 2.0 from the model selector, since right now it's the best model for realistic cinematic motion. I'll set it to 8 seconds, 1080p and 16:9 on standard mode, then drop that bus stop image in as the exact first frame. Then I'll describe the motion. The camera stays locked off while she slips the phone into her pocket. She brushes a loose strand of hair behind her ear and folds her arms to keep warm, with each movement flowing naturally into the next. I'll also describe the physical details so everything feels believable. Her heavy coat shifts and settles as she moves. The loose strand of hair falls back into place, and you can actually see her weight shift as she pulls her arms in against the cold. And here's what comes back. The camera never moves, but the whole shot has real weight to it. Nothing moves unnaturally, and it actually looks like a scene of a woman just waiting for the bus. That's the first half of motion, with the most attention on the subject, not the camera. Now for the diner scene, I want the exact opposite. The camera itself becomes the thing that moves. So I'll drop the diner frame in as the first frame, keep the same settings, and write one single continuous move. The camera orbits around her while she finishes wiping the counter, then follows her as she walks off toward the back. And this is where all that layering from the shot design finally pays off, because as the camera goes around her, the neon window and the lamps swing past behind her with real depth instead of looking like a flat picture getting dragged around. It genuinely looks like a real operator walked around her, there's real space to the room, and the camera eases to a stop on its own instead of drifting off. So one shot proves the subject can carry the motion, the other proves the camera can, and both of them come from stating exactly what moves and how much it weighs. And both of these hold up because we actually directed the camera and the weight instead of hoping the model would figure it out. But one good shot on its own is honestly the easy part, and the real test, the thing that trips up almost everyone, is combining a bunch of different shots together into one scene without the whole thing falling apart. Seedance 2 is actually built for multi-shot generation from just one prompt, which is what makes a video feel professional. But to actually get a bunch of different shots to hold together as one scene, you need to know how it works, because the second you ask for more than one shot, the model starts inventing its own cuts, losing character consistency between them or changing the lighting halfway through. So to show you how to actually control all of it, I'm going to build 4 completely different sequences from scratch, and there are 5 things you have to lock down for any of them to hold together. The first is a formula car racing around the track at golden hour. So I'll head into video with Seedance 2.0, set the aspect ratio to 21:9 for that wide cinematic frame, and start writing the prompt. Right at the top, I tell it exactly how many shots there are, 4 segments with 3 hard cuts, so it can add any of its own. Then I give every shot its own lens instead of one flat look throughout. A wide drone for the establishing view, a tight close-up on the driver's eyes, a low telephoto as the car races past, and a chase drone for the finale. I open every one of those shots with the car already in frame, so there's never an empty second for the model to fill with something of its own. I lock the lighting so it remains the same throughout. Then I write the audio as its own layered mix, from the engine rising and falling through the corners to the driver's breathing inside the helmet. And when it generates, all 4 shots cut together into one continuous sequence that holds the whole way through with the same car, lighting, and world. These are the 5 elements you need to lock down in your prompt for a video to come out cinematic. And to actually show you that it can be applied no matter what you're making, I'll build 3 more videos that are completely different from one another. Next, I want to make a video of a surveillance operative sitting alone in a parked car at night, listening to a wiretap. This one barely moves, and that's the whole point, because the fewer things moving in the frame, the tighter these locks actually hold. I keep the same 4-segment structure. The camera slowly drifts downward in a top-down drone shot. The character's face is lit only by the dashboard. There's a close insert of the tape reels turning, and her eyes are flicking up to the mirror. The new piece here is dialogue. So I write the exact line the wiretap says, and time it to land on the last shot, then end the whole thing on a hard cut to a black frame. And even though there's barely any movement, it comes back genuinely tense.
So we move the shipment Thursday. You're still listening, aren't you? Check your back seat.
The voice lands exactly when it should, and that cut to black looks like an actual cliffhanger from a real film. Now for the next video, I want a lighthouse keeper guiding a boat through a storm at night. The thing to get right here is the weight. So I describe the waves crashing into the tower with real mass and the rain driven sideways while the keeper stays calm inside the lamp room. But the part that really sells it is the audio, because I split it in 2 to build the contrast between the intensity of the storm and his calm voice. This one is my favorite so far.
Hard to port now. Follow my light. You're almost home.
Copy.
And it truly feels cinematic. You can fully feel the intensity of the storm and how hard the people are struggling to bring the boat back safely. And for the last one, I want a quiet scene of closing time in an old bar, so I'll generate with this prompt. The composition tells the whole story here. Before anyone even moves, you can understand exactly what's happening. Then it ends with all the lights going out except a single lamp, which draws all the focus on the character, which is a technique real cinematographers use.
One more for her.
This one's on the house.
So if you start taking control of your scenes, you can start creating your own cinematic videos, from building your first frame all the way to locking down all your shots. And if you follow these steps, your videos will stop looking like generic AI slop, and you'll be able to make outputs that feel truly cinematic. So if you want to make your own professional AI videos today, use the link in the description to sign up to Higgsfield. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.